is Lisa Baker at Serendipitous. As you know, we love a good morning Facebook Live. It's been a hot minute for me these past couple days because we've been busy here and frozen. But this morning, I'm super excited because we have a new friend to Serendipitous with us. Miss Chris, would you like to tell everyone who you are and where you're located?
Hey, I am Chris Schulte in Franklin, Tennessee of Green Light Quilts.
So, Chris, I will just tell you, there is a lot of serendipitous citizens, as we like to call them, that are super excited to really, get to hang out with you a little bit this morning. While I was at Houston, and I'm always doing some live videos while I'm at Houston Quilt Market or taking pictures, as soon as they seen your Goodnight Sheep quilt hanging, all I heard was, I want that. I want that. So, as I was picking out patterns, the one you have behind you, I fell in love with. And there's a couple of quilters here at Serendipitous. I was like, oh my God, I would love to see them make Chris's the sampler quilt because it is amazing. But you said you're in Tennessee. Do you have snow this morning? What do you got going on?
No, just cold, just very,
Just,
very cold. Yes. Yes, I've been inside since Sunday, so that's good.
oh, have you been sewing during this time?
I have been, yes, I got home from a retreat on Sunday and
Fun.
I'm working on a quilt as you go design with my big raw edge blooms. I'm really
Yes, we're
excited about it. It's going to be a great workshop, but I've been hitting the midnight oil trying to bang that one out.
Yeah. So the retreat you were at, were you teaching them that, or you created yourself a mini retreat so you could work on your quilt
No,
patterns?
I was actually invited to go up there as a YMCA camp in Tecumseh,
Uh-huh.
Indiana. They had a theme last week was sheep.
Oh, well, of
The
course.
night sheep, yeah. So they asked me to come up and invited me, and I did a trunk show. It was a lovely camp. Very colorful people. I'll always remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really fun. But I was inspired there by some bright fabrics and my quilt as you go, and you know,
Isn't it funny how you can look at a fabric collection, or like you said, maybe just some colors that will just spark this idea, and then you can't help yourself, but you dig right in, right?
I did, and I put my money where my mouth was. We had a little pop-up shop there, and I brought stuff that I was not inspired with, and I just
Oh,
dropped everything and went and purchased a lot.
I hear
Um,
a lot of retreaters do that. They'll pack what they think they want to work on, and then when they get to retreat, they unpack it and they're just kind of like, And then if they get lucky enough, there's a pop-up shop there, or they're close enough where they can shop hop. They usually end up finding something else that sparks their interest.
yeah, so that's how I roll, and I just kind of go with it. I rarely have a plan. And
I
it,
love it.
yeah, I have a lot of blocks that are finished but not, didn't make. So I have a big
Yeah.
box of thanks for coming, I call it.
So, quick question. How did you come up with the name Green Light Quilts? I'm all about the names of things and how did they come about? And that one is very unique in this industry. So, a little
Well,
background.
I just started teaching, and it was about 2007, 2008. And I was in the car with the kids, blabbing on about my students. And my kids were little. And I kind of said, some of them are so afraid to do something new. Just go. They just need to
Yeah.
go. And then my son piped up from the back seat and said, green light, go, because the light had turned green. And so that's inspired the green light quilts. And so as my motto is every day, just do it.
I
Yeah. Give yourself
love it.
permission to do it. Yes.
I love it. I love it. Nancy says, good morning to everybody. Cherie says, hello, Chris. That might be someone that knows you, Cherie Black, if I'm pronouncing
Yes.
it
Oh, I
right.
love, yeah, Huntsville. Yeah. Hey, girl.
Okay, yeah, you got a couple shout outs this morning. A lot of people watch our lives on playback because we're usually early in the morning and they might be just rolling out for that first cup of coffee. So
We're in Central Time too, so
oh, yeah. So, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. So, how far away are you, or do you know from like Charlotte? I mean, we're on the South Carolina side, but outskirts of Charlotte.
that far, maybe 5 or 6 hours.
That's what I was thinking.
I
That's what I
think
was thinking.
Asheville is 6 hours.
Oh, okay. So, well, then we're another two. It takes me, if I remember correctly, 6 to 7 hours to Nashville.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
But that's what I'm
Um,
kinda thinking, yeah. Yeah, I would
yeah,
love to come to that area. I've not been, I haven't done a show or anything in the Southeast down there.
yeah, we need to make that happen for sure. Uh, good morning, Miss Donna Casson, and Miss Lori Baker is saying good morning also. So now we know how you came up with green light quilts. I love that story, and I'm sure your son does too. It makes him feel a little bit a part of your
Well,
business.
Greenlight Quilts helped pay for his college, so he
He
better
better
love.
love it.
Yes.
Exactly, exactly. So, as a quilter, what got you, Chris, into actually wanting to design your own quilt patterns?
Well, actually, my first career, as you will, in textile was I was a knitting instructor.
Wow, okay.
Uh, Yep. So knit, my aunts taught me to knit. And then through an act of generosity, it turned my life from knitting to sewing. And if you'd like, I'd love to share that story.
Stu, we love to hear the inside scoop. Go ahead.
So I lived in Austin, Texas for a while, and I met a woman named Karen. And Karen was having some trouble with her daughter, but we clicked really well. And for years, we were good friends. Um, and she unfortunately was going through her third divorce. She said she had to go to the psychiatrist so he could help her fix her picker. She picked the wrong men. But she
Right?
called me, I think this was in 2006 or 2007. And she said, I'm going to send you something and I don't want to hear two words about it.
Okay.
If in the mail comes a certified check and it said, go buy that sewing machine you're looking at.
Oh,
Like a ton of money. So I call her, I'm like, Karen, what in the world? And she said, I was going through the closet, cleaning out the closet, and I found a hunting bag. And in that hunting bag was a huge wad of money. And I can't think of a nicer person to spend that son of a bitch's money. So, so I went out and bought that sewing machine, and the rest is history.
that brings tears to my eyes. I mean, it is hilarious what she did to the ex, but
I
wow,
didn't
what
think
a
you knew. But yeah, so I try to pay it forward, and
yeah.
show generosity and thoughtfulness. And it didn't even have to be that big of a gesture, but I try to live by
Yes.
one little thing can change somebody's life.
110%. So curious question. Did she get the first quilt that you made off of that sewing
I
machine?
I did make her a couple of quilts. Yes, I did a patriotic Santa.
Oh,
It was an applique. She liked to collect patriotic Santas. And then she did eventually marry a really nice man. Um, and he fell ill. So I made a quilt for him. It's funny, I don't even remember the design of it, but I do remember quilting, personalizing the machine quilting
yeah.
on to, writing things. Yeah, but yes, she did. Yeah. And I'm still in
That's
touch with her today.
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, our little tagline, theme line, or whatever is serendipitous stands for where unexpected happiness is truly found in every stitch. And to me, whether because I started out as a crocheter, also knitted, and of course, obviously, quilts and stuff. But no matter what craft you really do, whether it's got a stitch involved or not, you cannot make something for someone that you're not thinking of them the entire time you're making that. And, you're obviously making it out of love, and it's amazing. It is amazing. But you're right. One small positive gesture in someone's life, or what you think is small, could be so big for someone else.
Right. And my motto this year is 25 and 25. So I wanted to commit to 25 acts of kindness to a month.
I love it.
And I think as collectively as a group, quilting people in
Yeah.
general are very generous with our, I mean, really, who needs a quilt? Who needs a quilt to stay warm? This is not Little House on the Prairie,
Yes.
but it's
Right.
an expression of our creativity and our generosity. And we need more giving and kindness in the world.
Yeah.
And I think the little quilt ladies
You're right. You're right.
are
Very,
kindness. Yep.
yeah, givers, givers, givers for sure in every sense of the word. So
Yes.
when I asked you the question of what got you into designing your own quilt patterns, I thought you were going to say like a lot that's like, because I have trouble following other people's patterns. I always want to go rogue. You hear that all the time. So,
Really, I don't, I just kind of look at a pattern. Uh, but yes, I agree that some patterns are more difficult than others. And one thing that really irks me, is when they don't tell you how to press the seams.
yes. Especially, as a beginner, when I first started and I would pick up patterns, I really didn't know that pressing the seams a certain way was a real thing or made a real difference. It wasn't until you start maybe learning the right way or seeing someone else's work that was done the right way and you're like, wait, yours is not bumpy like this, or you struggle over certain seams because things aren't pressed the way they should go. So yeah, definitely a good pattern that is written with all the details that a beginner could potentially pick it up, with minimal knowledge and move forward is great. But I will tell you, I think the reason most quilters struggle with truly following a pattern from point, one to the end is because as they're doing it, because they're all artsy creative people, let's be real, they get inspired and they want to add their flair, which I think is fabulous because a lot of times I will pick up something because it inspires me and it'll get me started, but I've already known like, okay, I'm changing this block out to this, or oh, I'm going to do a different border. So,
I love when people do that. And
yeah,
it's a learning process. And we're not doing brain surgery. If we need to get the seam ripper out, it's no big deal. And it's just fabric. I mean, seriously.
yeah. Well,
Honestly, mistakes and disasters are nothing but creative opportunities.
yes, sometimes those still make it into the quilt, and we joke around here, it's a new design element.
I mean, it gives you not sometimes the worst blunders turn into the best the look.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no fear when I'm in my space. That's I think why my designs lend to the random scrappy look. I really I like to go in my room and not worry about running out of a fabric or
Mhm.
just having barely enough and making a mistake.
Yes. Yes.
So that's why use one when you can use one of my designs, the manor, is the house with the bricks.
Yeah.
You only need 1.25 yards of red on
Mhm.
that thing, but there are probably 75 different fabrics in the bricks, which make it look so much more charming.
Exactly, and it's a great scrap buster, when you're trying to do that. So, let's dig into a couple patterns
Well,
that I
hold on one
selected.
second. I
Oh, yes.
about the scrap buster, let me just back up.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, but there's two mottos to scrap quilting. One is the people who use their scraps, like my Aunt Mary. The second is like me, I don't commit to a fabric. So I don't have to use the stuff I have. And almost always when I start a design, I'm buying 8 yards of fabric from my local store.
Yeah,
So that's
definite.
just two mentalities. My aunt would say, I need to make a quilt. My drawers are full. And I would say, no, Auntie M, you need to buy another set of drawers. Okay. So
I love this.
get
So,
that
Chris,
cleared up.
yeah. So, Chris, if you did not watch our Quilt Babble Live Tuesday night with Lisa and Rona, you so need to go back and watch that on replay. I'll have to send you the link. Well, you can find it on our Facebook page, but it was about UFOs. And so in that conversation, we had a couple guests on. I can't pronounce last name, so I'm not going to try, but we had Kylie on there from My Quilt app. And then we had Lindsay on, and I cannot unfortunately remember the name of her company right now, but she does quilt planners and that type of stuff. And anyway, so the debate ended up being that night was, once you've created, you either bought a quilt kit or you yourself had this pattern and then you found this fabulous fabric and you put them together, to make your own quilt kit, if you will, and you put it up for, future. Cause I was talking about, I do that. So I have some projects to do when I retire and I can't spend as much money, right? So I'm projecting some things, or I don't have the time to quilt something as intricate as what's behind you right now. That would be one that I would plot and plan, for when I have more time. And so I think it was Kylie. She said if it is already kitted and plotted, then she considers that a UFO. And then I think me and Lindsay was like, if it's not cut into, it is not a UFO. So it is just so funny. But I'm like you, scrap quilts can be from your scraps, or you have purchased new fabric and you're creating a scrappy quilt out of it.
Both
It's
or both.
yeah, or
I
both.
buy, I'll buy a line of fabric, and I buy fat quarters, but I go to my stash and pull things to go with it to give it
Yeah.
more interest.
Absolute. So let's talk about the one behind you to start with. So guys, the one that is behind her is called the sampler. And here is a full picture. I know you can't see the full quilt behind her, but you're getting enough of that yumminess to appreciate. So Chris, talk about this quilt a little bit.
Well, this quilt was one of what I call a chunk of the month. So it's broken up into chunks instead of blocks.
Okay.
Chunk is a little different. And I just finished a year-long class with some people here in town. And each month we got together and worked on a chunk.
Love
Um,
it.
yes, but this was inspired by those cross-stitch samplers that you see.
Yes.
Love cross-stitch samplers. And I go to the wholesale market here in town and I get so much inspiration. And I love the wacky proportions of a cross-stitch. Um, this one took me a little bit of time. Um, I often debate with the borders, but I have this to show. You guys can see.
Oh my gosh, yummy.
This was the border to this quilt. And
Really?
yes, when I put it up, it looked horrible. But it was,
Really?
yes, it was horrible. But I could send you a picture. It just looked horrible. But it was so much work to put this little guy together that I put it aside. I have my thanks for coming pile. And
Yeah.
part of my motto, I have my spice motto, but the E is for edit. And if it doesn't work, you have to just put it in the pile. And then I turned it into this little table topper. And it is
Love it.
perfect as a table. And that's why it's called Once Upon a Time.
Love it. Thanks for coming, Pile.
Yes. So, and then also with this, with the,
Yeah.
you can just take the sunflowers. You could you make a wall hanging. I did this one. They're kind of back to back.
Love it.
This is a little table topper that you can, like a derivative of this quilt.
It's
But
funny that you did that because I will pull like a quilt pattern that maybe I like an element of it, but I'm not going to do the whole quilt. Or maybe I've done the quilt and there's an element I love, and I will pull blocks to create a table runner out. And it's funny enough you did that with sunflower, because that was one of my favorite ones I did, was sunflowers on each end with some real nice focus fabric in the middle, nothing too hard. But it was just a great way to reuse that pattern just in a different project.
well, I think the sheep would be a really cute table runner too.
And these are the sheep she's talking about, guys. You can't see it behind her, but
And
um
did the raw edge applique on these sheep, and the flowers, I kind of like, I did my raw edge flowers on top of it so that give them a, furry, hairy little look.
yeah,
Yeah, just I love
it is, it's stunning. It's so cute. And I'm so mad at myself because I took it home. So guys, when Chris shipped the patterns to us for the store, she included one of her little raw edge bloom samples. It looks like a little coaster. I'm like, I would never use it as a coaster. I just want to hug it. And I meant to bring it for this morning.
no worries.
Well, one thing is, we always put a little something in when somebody, orders off of us. So I've loved, now it's nothing homemade fabulous like you. I always used to call it the Cracker Jack stuff. So you may get a sticker, you may get
Oh,
a water tattoo. You could just get something random
we
in
speak
it.
the same language, yes.
Yeah, but that was so cute. And I loved it too, because if someone had not seen your raw edge bloom in person, to just get that little sample, it really just took it to a whole nother level. I actually need to bring it back and put it near the pattern, honestly, but love it. And it was just so much fun. So thank you for that. So with this, let's talk real quick. You kind of mentioned raw edge applique down here. Obviously, there's some piecing. Is there any other techniques in this pattern that they're going to?
Yeah, I just did some raw edge applique. Uh,
Okay.
really, and honestly, it did take a little bit of time. I would say if to my students, I would say find a roof fabric that you love that has a lot of colors in it, and
Uh-huh.
then pick this stuff based on the roof. So if the fabric goes with the roof, then it goes in.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to comment. I would have probably not even thought of using a floral print for a roof, but it really adds that cozy cottage feel for sure. Absolutely love it.
Yes, well, so I told you earlier, Marcus Fabrics has approached me to collaborate on a fabric line. I'm really excited. And they found an antique piece of textile from the Smithsonian, and they're going
Oh,
to use that in my new line. And they want another sampler like thing. So I'm making a different kind of house with different kind of stuff, but I will put that floral on the roof. Yeah.
oh, yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, guys, real quick before we move to the next pattern, if you do have any questions for Chris about the sampler pattern, throw it in the comments. Obviously, we carry these at Serendipitous, so you can grab those. I think Steve did already get those online as well. So for those of you that are not local, you can jump on Serendipitous and grab that. Teresa Justice says, Lisa, we need a chunk of the month at
Yes, you
Serendipitous.
do.
I've never chunk of the month. I love it. You and I will have to talk in regards to about that, but we also need to get you here in person. I think it
I'd
would be so
love to.
much fun.
Yeah.
Nancy says, I love the sheep. Let's see what else we got here. I think Nancy might know you because the name is not familiar to me. Nancy Chef.
Pepper. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then, of course, Cherie is saying she's excited to hear that you are going to have a fabric line. And I think
I
that's,
say, hey girl, we need to go to lunch. Let's get together. She's down in Huntsville. So I
oh,
met her
okay.
when I did a gig down there. The Huntsville girls are like my adopted group.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
so great. Yeah. Love my
Having
team.
quilty friends all over is literally like having extra family members for sure. It's
Yes. Yeah.
it's amazing. So, since we were talking sheep, in the first one, we'll move into this one. Guys, this one is a good night sheep. Um, I
I
will
hope you
tell
named that
you, the picture
one.
doesn't do any justice for this quilt. This is the one that I did take a picture or video at Houston that everybody was rah-rahing over. So let's talk about that one, Chris.
Well, that picture, now that I have more lighting and stuff, I'm hoping to update my photo and the cover. But again, my aunts taught me how to knit, and I've always been fond of sheep. And
Uh,
so, sheep and an Irish chain go hand in hand. Of course, that one is random fabrics. And
right.
I loved the border again, as always, the borders trip me up. And I will almost commit to never putting just slapping a piece of fabric on a border. I think that's you could if you wanted to, but I think that's a cheat. So
The
I
cheat,
finally
and I'm an anti-border girl, so oh my God, I always struggle. But if it is a piece border, I do much better of like, okay, let me finish this quilt than if it is
yes.
just,
And that
yeah.
was pieced. And I think the border should be considered as like an extension of the quilt. So that
Um, I'm trying to show them the fabric you used in the border, because once again, I was shocked to see the piecing go out into the border, but you still use this papal
Yeah.
fabric.
Mhm.
It's just beautiful.
Yep, and I love the chain, and the sheep are really fun. If now next time you have the opportunity to look at the quilt, I tried a new technique of I made the quilt and layered it, and then I quilted the sheep on. And I tried to do it with their face, and it was a disaster. So if
Uh-huh.
you were a judge and you looked at that, I would get like a 0. Um, but again, I think that in life, even though um, I celebrate my blunders and learn from them, and it's just absolutely fine. It Nobody cares. And again, quilty people want everything. We see those beautiful quilts hanging up in the shows, but who needs to do that? We just need to have fun. So yeah,
Have
that was
fun.
fun. Inspired by my aunts in Ireland and the Irish chain. I love the Irish chains.
Yeah, it is like I said, the picture doesn't do it justice.
And I love to
It's
use
absolutely amazing.
the light chain, but those low volume fabrics are all different in there. They're not the same.
Oh yeah, it
Much
was a
fun.
patchwork heaven for sure.
So much fun to use up your little pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, love, love, love. So Teresa Justice that I mentioned earlier that said, "Hey Lisa, we do need chunk of the month here at Serendipitous." She was one of the ladies that was like, "When is this pattern coming? When is this pattern coming?" And I'm like, "It's coming, it's coming." So as soon as I called her to say, "Hey, it arrived," she literally hopped in the vehicle. She was here the next morning. Boom. She's like, "Do I need to come and get it today?" And it was late evening. I'm like, "No, Teresa, I think I can hold on to one for you." But she's one of the ladies I'm like, "I really want you to make this sampler." Her and Marty, they always do amazing work, and I think they would do a great job on that. So one of the big things it looked like to me that you really do a lot of, and that's why I wanted to save it for last, um, is your raw bloom applique and stuff. So this one, guys, is called the Big Blooming Quilt. Once again, picture doesn't do it justice.
I
And
had
this,
that
if I,
professionally done too.
oh, did you?
Yes, but yeah, yeah. But now I have
It's
a
just
really, really snazzy camera. So um yeah. That's my husband's favorite quilt.
really, now it is just a fabulous. And if I remember, Chris, this is just a portion of the quilt. This is not what the whole, because these are not as big as what it presumes here, guys. It's not just a 4 block and that's your quilt.
Yeah, hold on. I have it right here.
Oh, okay. Yay, we're gonna get lucky. Chris is gonna show us. Um, guys, oh yeah, look at that. Yummy.
Yeah,
Absolutely
it's been
yummy.
washed and loved a lot. Uh, yeah, but this one I thought for sure that the quilt police would come and descend upon me because the edges were raw, and flapping around. And it's really funny, when you're walking by a quilt somewhere and people comment on it. Like I'll be in the store and my quilt will be hanging up and they don't know me from Adam and they'll make comments. It's really enlightening. But two little ladies walked by one of my quilts and one said to the other, bless her heart, she didn't even turn under the edges.
Oh my God. He really was trying to become the chief of quilt police, right?
So it did really made me laugh. But I love the shabby chic kind of feel of it. It's very freeing, and the worse you do sewing them down, the better they look. I have a
Absolutely.
tutorial on my website, so people can find
Oh, and Chris, go ahead and tell everybody what your website is.
greenlightquilts.com.
Easy breezy, guys. Easy breezy. Like I said, I'm gonna have to bring that little sample back that you made and sent so everybody can see that. Just absolutely love, love, love. For some reason, my computer is not letting me see everyone's comments at the minute. I'm not sure why. Brenda LeBee, though, that one did pop in and she says, beautiful. I don't know which quilt she's talking about, but I'm sure she's talking about all three. Brenda actually works here and stuff.
Well,
But
my new design is a quilt as you go, but it's a quilt and an applique. So you
okay.
set up your little blocks and you applique the flower down, and you're quilting too. So you're
How
doing multiple. So it's going to be called the Apple Quilt Garden. And if you like the
cute.
raw edge technique, you can quilt it yourself very simply and
Yeah.
give yourself permission on the money you save from quilting to buy lots and lots of fabric to put on it.
As you can tell, guys, Chris loves the fabric. I'm with you. I'm with you. Chris, while you're sitting there, I know that quilt is in your lap. Hold it up and see if you can zoom in on one of those flowers so they can really appreciate the raw edge applique like you're talking about. Yeah, it almost has that ragged feel, which I love. And like you said, I don't want to say no skill is involved, but any newbie can really do this and have a great look.
Yeah, in fact, the worst bloom I ever sewed down was the prettiest one. So there's honest to goodness, Mother Nature does not make blooms perfect.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think we should either. And another thing that's really great about the blooms is, have you ever seen a bouquet of flowers? Then you said those flowers don't go together. So
Never.
as
Yep.
long as the flower looks good, you can put it with any other flower you like. It all looks
Exact.
fine. And you would use fabrics on there you would never ever put together in a quilt, but it works when you make the flower look good.
Exactly. Now, it looked like to me, Chris, the thread you used to quilt down those raw edge flowers, did you use black consistently? Was that black thread I was saying, or do you match your thread to the fabric?
No, I kind of blend it.
Okay.
I love
Yeah. Okay. I see now. Yes.
um I use a lot of Aurifil, and I 98, even in quilting. I machine quilted for people for about 10 years, but 98% of the threads that I use were all neutrals.
Wow. Wow. Nice. Yeah.
I think that was probably 2025 of Aurifil. Looked like.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Kay Wilson says, can't wait to make the blooming one. I can so see her doing this. Kay, she loves big quilts. So the size on this is 60 by 80. Knowing Kay, she's gonna bump that size up. Yeah, she makes big. And she's fast at it. Nancy Schefflery, if I'm saying it right, she says, I like the way you think, save money on quilting to use on fabric. Susan says, I love the sheep. When are you coming to Rock Hill? Question mark with a bunch of hearts behind it. I think you got some fans in South Carolina, Chris. I'm just saying.
Well, that's cute. Yeah. Hey, I'd love to be in the area. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to definitely work that up. It would be so much fun. Maybe do a little 2-day class or something right here in the shop, and then maybe do a trunk show while you're here or something.
Now, I understand you have some Civil War fabrics, but maybe when my new line comes out.
Girl, I'm going to be on the look for it now for sure. Yeah. So in the shop when we first opened, because we were online 4 years prior to become brick and mortar. And when we first opened up brick and mortar, numerous people would be like, because we were still new. So there was a lot of bare space, right? And they were like, so what kind of feel are you going to have for your shop? And I knew what they were asking. I was just kind of laying low and, playing dumb. And I'd be like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, are you going to be, more of this feel or that feel? And I'm like, listen, I'm a Gemini. And I said, that's kind of
You
like
do.
split person. Yeah. Are you? I
Yep.
said, yeah. I said, that's kind of split personality. I said, so you're going to find like, Civil War reproduction, 1930s, but then you're going to find wild and wacky, modern, and everything in between. So our shop really doesn't have a feel when it comes to fabric. We do try to have something, for everyone. But depending on my day, I may be that Civil War, fabric, or I could, fall into more, crazy modern or Tim Holtz. Now I love some Tim Holtz. His fabrics would look really good in some of your patterns because of that scrappy vintage feel.
Well, see, my motto would be I would come into your store and I would challenge myself to use a little bit of everything, because it's not quite a scrap quilt unless you've used Cafe or Tilda or maybe your husband's shirt.
Yeah,
So I use it all.
I
Yes,
love it.
that's what
Now,
I like.
Did your mom or any of your aunts quilt? I know you said your aunt taught you to knit, I think is what you said,
Yes.
right?
I lost my mother when I was little. I was 7. But I remember she had a sewing machine in the family room.
Okay.
And, and then my aunts kind of rallied around to make sure that I had, clothes when the school year started and
Right.
that. But yes, my aunts were very pivotal to me growing up and into adulthood. They really kind of were like my compass,
Yeah.
as you would use your mother. Um, but I had special relationships with my aunts. I have Auntie M we lost last year. She was a big quilter. She was my quilting buddy. She
Wow.
lived a
Yeah.
great life. She was frugal, bossy, know-it-all. Um, and if you see one of my designs, it's called Auntie M's Trellis. I did create a design for each of my aunts, but
Nice.
I did Auntie M's Trellis, and I intentionally made it into a trellis because it grows on you. And I think as with anybody, if you give them enough time, they grow on you. And she literally was one of my favorite people, even though she was grouchy and curmudgeon but she had so much love in her heart. And
Love it. I love it. But when you think about when you were saying, curmudgeon and all of that, when you think about the time that some of our aunts or grandmothers, was raised in, they didn't have a choice but to use everything to
yeah,
its full max and stuff. So you have to, like you said, appreciate that and love that. But I had forgot about the Auntie M, but I do remember seeing it because I am a huge Wizard of Oz fan. I mean, obviously, you can see anywhere in the store, you'll see some Wizard of Oz stuff. And I remember that Auntie M, and I was like, oh, well, that's going to be my favorite, of course.
yeah, yeah, Auntie and then Aunt Nan and Aunt Sue and Aunt Margaret. They were all very
Nice.
instrumental and they inspire me every day. So
Love it, love it. Well, that's the way Serendipitous was born is on both sides, my dad and my mom's side. Both of my grandmothers sewed. My dad's mother, she was more the crocheter or sewed clothes. I never did get the clothes bug.
yeah,
Yeah, but both of them did quilt. My grandmother, Grandma Annie on my mom's side, now she was more of the quilter and stuff. But you mentioned earlier about it's not really scrappy unless it's got a little bit of everything, even such and such a shirt. And one of my favorite quilts I can remember as a kid was this one that very scrappy. It had everything in it. And I would love to sit with my mom or with my grandmother and be like, now whose shirt was that? And so you got family history as you were cuddled up, in front of the TV or something.
you can see if you can see where I'm pointing,
Uh-huh.
that's Jim's shirt.
Love.
He asked me to put a button on it and I cut it up.
Well, yeah, don't, yeah. Anytime a pair of pants or something like that ends up in my sewing room needs to be him. Yeah, it's like, no, this is for fun in here,
Yeah,
guys.
no, I don't. Well, asking me to put a button on a shirt is like asking Michelangelo to paint the garage. It's just not in my wheelhouse. Um, so yeah,
Chris, I love it. You
I
are
try to put
spunky.
I try to put a little bit of Jim's shirt in everything I do, and all day
Oh,
long. I had a little piece of fabric that my son bought me when he was 8. He
huh.
went into a quilt store and picked up, 5 or whatever fat quarters, and one was a red, and I tried to use it in a little bit of everything. It was really, is there an ugly fabric? It was, let's just say it was one that I wouldn't have picked. And so I put it into a little bit of everything, and I was really sad when that one ran out.
Oh, wow, that is funny. Yeah, that's good. Nancy says, "What?" in all caps, question mark. You took his shirt. I love it. I love it. Also, Teresa Justice said, "Sign me up for that class." And Sharon Ford said, "Me too." So yeah, we're definitely gonna have to work on that. That will be
Definitely need a chunk of the month. It's really fun. And it was so much fun to see the different fabrics morph. I've had bright ones and it was just really fun. It was good.
I love it. Now, I mentioned earlier I had seen your quilts at Quilt Market, but honestly, Chris, I cannot remember whose booth they were in. Did you have a booth? Like, how did your quilts end up in Houston Quilt Market?
Wow, that's a fun that I was vending in Pigeon Forge. I don't know how far away you are from Pigeon Forge, but that was a great show.
For about three hours, three and a half.
That's worth the trip, really.
Yeah.
And one woman who owned a store walked by my booth, and I really wasn't selling wholesale at the time. And she said, "Would you be willing to sell me wholesale?" And I said, "Sure." And then at the end of the show, she came by, she bought a whole bunch of patterns, and she said, "I was going to retire, but your quilts have inspired me to keep going for a couple of years."
Really?
Yes, her name's Martha. That was like, to me, that was a huge compliment. That's my whole motto of my, what I do is to put happy and scrappy into the world and give people joy. Um, and I was driving home from, and I happened to have a friend with me, Kay, and she, was in the quilting world. And I said, would I regret not going to market? And she said, "You're young, you might regret never trying." And so I did Houston show, the festival.
Right.
But then I just added the market on top of it.
Nice.
That's Martha is the reason why I went to Quilt Market.
Wow. You just never know who you're going to encounter, what conversation is going to change the path.
That's what
And
I said. Just one little comment that's kind and honest, and it can
yeah,
it can really do a lot to change the course of somebody's life.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you for taking time this morning to hang out with me and all the citizens of Serendipitous. I think you fit in here at Serendipitous really well because, like I said, we do believe that there's unexpected happiness in every stitch. And it sounds like that's how you kind of live your life. And thank you for sharing these. Like I said, guys, I do have these three in house. Of course, we're going to be adding more of Chris's patterns into our shop. And yes, before y'all yell at me, I will get with Chris and we'll see what we can do about getting her in, here to South Carolina, maybe in 2025, depending on everyone's calendars. Are you doing any shows this year, Chris?
I'm going to Bloomington, Indiana in March, and I have a big 2-week gig in Kansas in June.
Oh,
Yeah, I've never been
nice.
up there, but I do have a coming up there. I'm going to East Tennessee or maybe North Carolina, and I don't. You might be in the vicinity, and I'll take a look. And if it works out with your schedule, it'd be fun to just pop down.
Yeah, yeah, piggyback on that for sure. Yeah, let me know. Justice says, great talk, great quilts. They have me so excited.
Good.
I'm glad to hear that, Teresa. Once again, Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank
spending
you
your
for
morning with
inviting
us.
me. This is really fun.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again. And guys, everybody out there watching, stay warm, stay safe. And for now, this is Lisa Baker at Serendipitous, where unexpected happiness is truly found in every stitch. Have a good day, guys.